Hi, everyone. I'm Mari-Lyn. Welcome to the Conscious Spirit podcast. Is this a recovery talk? I don't know. I don't know if this is, related only to people that are in recovery or if this is for just people across the board. I'm going to say it falls in line with just about every human at some point in time. Lately the energies of the world with the planets and everything, it's been crazy. For me personally, it's been a real up and down journey for, oh my gosh, the last 9 months. I'm going to be honest, the last 9 months has been really crazy for me personally. And something I realized just today is that I'm not very good at monitoring how much of my emotion I wear on my sleeve. I tend to exude how I feel internally to everyone else. And is that really in everyone's best interest? Is it really in my best interest? Certainly isn't in the best interest of the people that I'm around. Does that mean that I should be fake? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But what I am coming to realize is that there is a peace, a P-E-A-C-E, a peace in neutral. And you've heard me talk about peace in neutral before, and it means different things at different times for different people. But there is a peace in neutral that I'm learning is important to find when we interact with people. Are there times when we are in an extreme reaction where we want to voice our anger, our distrust, our sadness, our grief, our disappointment? Yes, absolutely. And it's important for us at certain times to be able to express those different emotions. But if we're in a state of frustration for long term, disappointment for long term, excuse me, is that a ding, ding, ding about what I'm going to say? Disappointment long term. There comes a point where we settle into that. And maybe I should just talk about me personally. There has come a point where I have settled into this vibration of disappointment. And am I in that vibration by choice? Some would say yes. I don't think it's that simple. But am I choosing to do anything to change it? No, not really. Is that splitting hairs? Probably. Am I trying to make myself feel better? Probably. But in being stuck in this vibration of disappointment, I'm going to call it, I'm not allowing myself room to be anything other than disappointed. So allowing myself to find some peace in this disappointment by allowing myself to put it aside when I'm engaging in other things or engaging with people, that would open up the opportunities for clearly new disappointments, but it would open up the possibility of some satisfaction, some satisfactory interaction, some healing even of the disappointments. There's a difference. And again, this is splitting hairs. There's a difference in settling into a vibration, wallowing in that vibration, bypassing the vibration, and sometimes it can be such a fine line between each of those places that it's hard for each person to see what they've done, to see that they've moved from being settled in that vibration into now wallowing in that vibration, or emotion or mood or whatever you want to call it. It's easy for me to talk vibration, but let's call it an emotion. It's easy to settle into something, to settle into being disappointed, accepting it, trying to work on it, but then maybe you've become wallowing in it and you haven't seen it because you're trying so hard to understand it. And it's coming to my attention that maybe we don't always have to understand it. That maybe it's enough to recognize that we're in it and accept it and do our best to move on from it. I'm still figuring that one out. There's different scenarios that I absolutely can do that. And this is what makes me, excuse me, wonder is this part of my addictive personality of trying to dissect and understand something before I can move on from it? I don't know. But I do know that wearing our emotions on our sleeve all the time really isn't in our highest good or in the highest good of other people. And then there's that fine line of, well, do I wear a mask? Do I have to put a mask on if I'm going to interact with people? Or do I have to even dig deeper and find a place in me that isn't in that vibration or that emotion of disappointment, which is kind of where I've been. So that is what sparked me to do this podcast today is I was thinking about that. Well, then I'm just going to have to dig out all those masks that I've tried so hard to get rid of. And spirit says to me, no, no, you don't have to put on a mask. You have to find that place of peace. That place of peace in neutral, to where you can step out of what you're feeling and just be. Step out of where step out of how you're feeling and just be. Now, I've had to do that from the opposite perspective. Being on top of the world, being in a really high vibration, being happy and full of gratitude and exuberant, really internally, and then come into a situation where someone is down and out, someone is hurting. And I have to find that place of neutrality to where I can hold space for that person. I can be there for that person without my exuberance, because my exuberance in that moment isn't going to help them. And at the same time, I don't want to dip into their low vibration of pain, whatever their scenario is. That doesn't do us any good either. Going into that, sorry, lost the term, unhealed empathy. You don't want to go there. That doesn't do anybody any good. But I want to hold space for this person so I can find a neutral place. I can find some peace in neutral, allowing my exuberance, my joy to be set aside, and then to be there for this person. So then why shouldn't I be able to set aside my disappointment and my pain to interact with another person who is on a higher vibrational level? It seems to me that it should work both ways. And I know it does. I know I've done it before. I know I've seen it be done before. What just came? That is a person with humility. The person that can take themselves out of their own low vibration. They can take themselves out of whatever that emotion is, disappointment for me lately, to be able to step out of that and to be more neutral. That takes some real humility. And maybe you've heard this before, maybe you haven't. Humility is one of my big life lessons. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me to process that out loud with you. And hopefully that resonates with somebody. It feels like it does. It feels like there's somebody or many somebodies that are listening to this, and you're going, ooh, really? That could be humility? Yeah, absolutely. That is an example of humility, of being able to step out of your misery, whatever it is, your pain, your anything, your grief, your unhappiness, your lack of joy, even your lack of self-love. Excuse me. It's raining today and allergies are here. Allergy season, it's happening. If you are an allergy sufferer, I'm sorry. I feel your pain. But yeah, humility, that is an example that Spirit has just brought me, of being able to step out of whatever it is you're going through when you're interacting with people, to be in that place of neutrality, finding just some peace and neutral. Wearing our emotions on our sleeve, good, bad, or indifferent. What's coming is, that really is our ego screaming for attention, screaming, I'm more important. And like I said earlier, every once in a while, we have to. We're human. That's what we do. But to continuously always have our emotions out there front and center for absolutely every person that we encounter, yeah, maybe not in anybody's highest good. So how do we take that leap? How do we step out of our own ego to find that place of neutrality when we have settled or are wallowing? I guess the first thing we have to do, right, is recognize it. We have to recognize that we are wearing that emotion on our sleeve, and that it's been for an extended period. That recognition is the very first thing, right? We have to recognize before we can do anything about it. So we recognize it. I guess the next thing we do is we ask for help. We can ask ourselves for help. That's one thing I haven't done. I've asked Spirit for help. I haven't really asked myself. Now, I am a huge preacher of being in relationship with yourself. And I've not done that. I've not actually communicated with myself. Who was it? Emeril Lagasse. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Emeril Lagasse. He is a chef. And once upon a time, my husband and I watched him a lot. And he would say, and I said to myself, self. Yeah, I need to say, we all need to say to ourselves, self, what do you need today? What can I do to help you? It's not up to anybody else to help us get out of or into any vibration. We need to be active participants in our own dilemmas, in our own healing, in our own day-to-day, everything. We need to be active participants. And wow, it's really dawning on me that lately I've only been an active participant in part of my life. There are certain areas where I've been extremely active. And then there's been areas where I've completely ignored. And by ignoring, that disappointment has crept in, and it's crept in to the other areas of my life. That's so interesting. It's very common for me to get many aha moments doing a podcast. And that's one reason I am a huge proponent of talking to oneself. Sometimes it's literally, sometimes it is the best conversation in the room, especially if you're alone. Talking to ourselves can bring so much insight when we are literally talking to ourselves, not just talking to be heard, not just talking to hear our own story, but we're talking for the purpose of working out a problem, of gaining guidance, of understanding more of why we do things, the mechanics behind what we do and what we think and how we think. Being in relationship with our body and with our energetic self, our spirit self, our soul, and being in relationship with our ego. So we can understand more how our ego works, what our ego is trying to say to us. Is our ego trying to protect us from real danger? Is our ego trying to protect us from vulnerability? Is our ego trying to project us as being better than? And the more we get to know ourselves, our body, ourselves on every level, the better we understand our ego. And the better we understand our ego, the more clarity we can gain and the more understanding we can have when we wear that emotion on our sleeve, when we want the whole world to know what we're feeling. And it's really none of the world's business how we're feeling. That's for us to figure out. That's for us to understand. And that's for us to heal. And the more involved we are with ourselves, that includes self-care, the communication that I've been talking about. Yeah. And the better relationship we have with ourselves, the better equipped we are to have a relationship with other people. I am starting to see fairly clearly now that the inability to communicate, this is for me, the inability for me to communicate with other people really reflects my inability to communicate with myself. That's very interesting. For anybody who has watched The Conscious Spirit and TCS Everyday Psychics through our journey, you know I've struggled with communication. I've struggled greatly with trying to get words out in a logical manner. And yeah, that absolutely does reflect on how I have been unable to communicate with myself. And being an alcoholic is proof enough right there. Because if I had good communication with myself and understood myself, pretty sure alcoholism would not have been part of my story. But then that's part of what I came into this life to do, was to experience alcoholism, to experience the difficulties with communication, and to learn how not only to maneuver through that, but how to maneuver into a new way of expression. And I do believe that I'm learning that. I fully believe that I am a better communicator today than I was yesterday. Absolutely a better communicator today than I was a year ago. A better communicator. I don't need to go on through the whole history. I mean, but I have learned so much about myself. And in teaching other people how to be in relationship with themselves, I've kind of neglected doing it on a continuing basis personally, which is really irritating to me at the moment. Practice what you preach is something that I've said forever. Wow. Practice what you preach is something that I can remember always believing that it should be. And I am here to admit I do not practice what I preach sometimes. A lot of times. I don't practice what I preach. I don't put myself first. Okay. I don't put myself first when I should put myself first. I put myself first in those times when maybe I shouldn't. And again, this is a lesson in humility, which is something I'm working on mastering. And I don't know if I'm going to do it this lifetime. I think the whole concept of mastering something is really bigger than I can wrap my head around. It means that we come in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to experience this certain thing. We're just going to stay with humility coming into this life. To master humility means that I've had many lifetimes where I have worked on humility from different angles. Am I going to master it this time? I don't know. Have I mastered it yet? No, not even close. I keep discovering new ways where my ego has just totally run amok. And it's, geez. frustrating. It's mind-boggling. And at the same time, I have to remember, I can't beat myself up because that's my goal, is to uncover all of these different ways where my ego blows up, and I need to learn the lesson of humility within that. And this is another one of those lessons. And I'm grateful for it. And I will be better for it. And I will maneuver through it and into that new way of thinking and that new way of reacting with more humility. If I take active steps, if I become that active participant in building that relationship with me, in really communicating with me, not feeling sorry for me, not telling myself I should have done this sooner, going all down those rabbit holes of, self-criticism and self-doubt. And, that's something we do as humans, and that's something that we will always do throughout our lives. It doesn't matter how much healing we do it. And I know that. And when I do it, I can catch it. But what I don't do, when I catch it, I don't go to the other side of it. I don't go to, okay, Mari-Lyn, what do you need? What do you need to help yourself get through this? What do you need in order to change this? Side note, I'm going to brag for a minute. I've had to make a lot of changes in my lifestyle recently, and they're hard. But one of them is exercise and strengthening my core. Something, I've talked about my entire life. I've got to strengthen my core. I've got to strengthen my core. And never done it. And now I have to. There's no choice here. I have to. So I've started planking. My husband and I have started this plank challenge. And today we did a 1.5-minute plank. And for the past, I'm going to say 4 days, the moment it becomes difficult, I say to myself, Mari-Lyn, you're doing good. You're building strength. You're building bone. You're doing this for your highest good. You're doing this for a healthier life, for a longer life. And I'm giving myself this pep talk. And before you know it, 3, 2, 1, complete the exercise and the plank is over and I made it. So I'm going to celebrate that win right here and right now with everybody as a reminder to myself and hopefully to you all that it really does work and it really can make a difference if we communicate positively with ourselves, to ourselves, for ourselves. Yeah, I'm taking the win on that because, oh my goodness, it's hard planking. Plank is hard. Plank is hard. If you're, I'm physically, how do I say this? I'm in decent shape. But am I fit? No, I'm not. I have no core strength, but I'm building it. I'm working on it. I've lost so much flexibility and I'm working on it. there's so much that I've lost that I'm working on rebuilding and regaining and building stronger. And in this area, I'm taking the win. And thank you for allowing me that side note, because it was a good opportunity to show how that positive talk, that positive communication with yourself, it really does help. It really does. Unfortunately, it takes longer for it to work than does the negative self-talk. That negative self-talk can take you down in an instant. It can take you down right now. And it's easy. It's low vibrational, right? It's easy to grab onto. And it's an easy habit to fall into and to get comfortable with. Anything low vibrational is really easy to get comfortable with because it makes us uncomfortable. And I hate that, but it's true. It's easier to be miserable than it is to be happy. It's easier to be miserable than it is to be neutral, because I think we're taught, if we're not happy, at least I know this is true for me. If I'm not happy, I must be miserable. There can't be just neutral. Do you ever hear truth and something gets triggered within your body? It happens for me all the time. When I hear truth, depending on what it is, like what I just said, that it's easier to be miserable than it is to even be neutral. See, even when I just said it right there, the heartburn went from a 2 to a 12. My body's way of telling me it's true. That it's so easy to grab on to the lower vibrations, the frustrations, the disappointments, to wear them on our sleeve. Than it is to just be neutral. And being neutral doesn't mean we don't have emotion. Being neutral means, what Cowboy is telling me right now, that being neutral means you allow yourself to ride the emotion that is in your highest good at any given moment. So everything around you is chaos and it's low vibrational, and that's not in your best interest. So you're just neutral. You're nothing. You're just are. But if everything around you is joy and beauty and exuberance and happiness, and you aren't there, if you're neutral, allow yourself to absorb the closest one that you can reach. And that most positively, or most absolutely, is going to be higher than neutral. If we allow ourselves to gravitate toward the highest we can reach, even if it's for a short time, we allow ourselves a reprieve of a higher vibration. All of that goes away and we're left to ourselves. Best case scenario, we go back to neutral. We don't have to dip down into whatever it is that we're innately feeling. If there's healing that has to come wounding that needs to be recognized and dealt with, a situation will come around that's going to bring it back up. But the important piece, and man, I hope this is all making sense, is that in relationship with ourselves, that we can step out of what we're in and find that place of neutrality. Even when we're alone, and especially when we're interacting with other people. And again, this isn't about putting on a mask to hide what we're feeling. It's about stepping out of what we're feeling for our highest good and the highest good of other people, to be in a place where we're open to accepting something higher. Yeah. Being in a place, a new definition of peace and neutral. And there's so many of them. Great, I just put my finger right on my lens. Peace and neutral can be allowing ourselves to accept a vibration that is higher than where we are. Boy, that feels good. And that, saying that out loud, tempered the heartburn that was triggered when I had talked about it being easier to be miserable than it is to even be neutral. Peace and neutral is being open to allowing ourselves open to a higher vibration than where we are. I like that. I really like that. Thank you, Cowboy, for bringing that to me. And I hope that resonated with somebody. I hope that helps somebody. You know, it's hard enough. I mean, it's hard being human. Humaning is hard. It just is. Transition is hard. Change is hard. Healing can be hard. And healing, as hard as it can be, it's so much easier and so much better than living in the old crap, the old ways. It really is. And even as hard as it is, sorry, I lost my train of thought again, because something I just said sparked that heartburn again. Even all the healing that we do, we're still never all healed. And you've heard us, we say it all the time. Healing is hard. Being wounded is harder. And what I'm learning is that depending on what our lessons are, what our masteries are in this life, will determine how difficult your lessons are, how difficult the healing is. I thought maneuvering out of codependency was hard. Maneuvering through this ego is challenging. And I got sidetracked. What I was starting to say was that humaning is hard regardless. Humaning is hard as a child, as an adolescent, as a young adult, as a mid-adult, as an older adult, and as an elderly adult. Humaning is hard. When there's addiction added to that, there's a different element, it's an additional element. It's an additional element. And when I say an addiction, I do seriously mean addiction of any kind. And we can become addicted to our wounding, absolutely. We get comfortable in that place of uncomfortability, and that can be an addiction of its own. There's nothing special about being an addict or being in recovery. There is, however, an added element of, okay, it's an added rabbit hole. It's an added rabbit hole to the picture, because everybody has different rabbit holes that they can jump down and get lost in and escape in. But when you are when you have an addiction, regardless of what it is, it's an added rabbit hole that needs to be addressed, that needs to be filled in. If we just leave all of our rabbit holes open as we stumble through life, we are undoubtedly going to stumble and fall into multiples. So with addiction, in being in recovery, we start filling that in. That's what healing is. As we heal our wounds, we start filling in those rabbit holes. And sometimes we think, oh, great, that rabbit hole's all filled in. I'm not going to fall in. And I've healed that. And then one day, we don't realize that it's rained so hard that dirt isn't hard packed, but it's mud. We step in that rabbit hole and we fall to the bottom. That, my friend, is a crazy underground garage. And there's more healing to do. There's more clarity that needs to be brought to whatever the wound is. And sometimes that clarity is enough to get you through the rest of your healing. Sometimes it's not. Excuse me. But that happens. Those rabbit holes will soften, or they'll, the dirt will compact and we'll not notice it and we'll trip on it. And there's more to learn, and there's more clarity to have, and there's more to understand. And that's another opportunity for us to communicate with ourselves about our needs, our physical body, our spiritual body, our emotional body, all of it together. And they're all separate. And pretty soon, the rabbit holes become less and less likely that you're going to fall to the bottom. You might just trip on it and turn around and go, oh, no, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to pack that down and I'm going to fill it up. And this isn't burying it. This is healing. This is doing what's necessary to heal the wounds that created that rabbit hole. And then we can move on. Sometimes a certain wound will make different rabbit holes. One wound can make many rabbit holes. Or there could be one rabbit hole, but different wounds. And so you think you've done one thing, and that same rabbit hole gets you, and you're like, what the heck? Oh. So say one incident in your life creates multiple wounds. And you go down the rabbit hole of that incident, and you find all these different wounds that are around it. That's what I mean by that. Yeah, I know I got a little bit off track. But not really. Wearing our emotions on our sleeves for the world to see is not always in our highest good, not in their highest good. And finding that place of neutrality, that place of being open to receiving a higher vibration than where we are, and building a relationship with yourself to help yourself to begin healing the wounding and the trauma that creates those rabbit holes that we can fall into, to where then we're wearing that emotion on our sleeve again. Building relationship with yourself can help you recognize the wounding, the healing, what you're here to really master. Yeah. And those are amazing things, that mastery. For me, codependency and humility are really alcoholism. I also came in to master that. I mastered being an alcoholic pretty well. And so far, my journey of mastery in recovery is moving along beautifully. Do I still struggle on days? Sure. Do I ever want to drink? Yeah. Sorry, I do. I wish I didn't. Do I ever really have that phenomenon of craving? No. Have I been so tempted that I've actually thought about going and, I mean, seriously planned out, how am I going to drink? No. But especially in times of being in wounding, it is really easy to think about drinking. One of the first things that comes up for me is planning dinner and thinking, oh, what wine would go with dinner? Or would beer be better with dinner? Or, my husband and I may have mentioned this in another podcast. We had played disc golf. all day. It was a beautiful, warm, sunny day. And we're walking home. And I said to him, I'm not going to lie, an ice cold beer sounds really good right now. And then we started talking about decaffeinated, is it Arnie Palmer, iced tea and lemonade. And I have to be so careful as to how much caffeine I have. So my coffee is, usually 1, maybe 2 cups. It's in the morning though. I can't really have caffeine as the day goes on in any form, except maybe chocolate. And if there's too much of that, forget it, no sleep. Excuse me. But we started talking about this iced tea, and I said, oh, I think that's going to be my go-to after a hot day of disc golfing. And the next time we went grocery shopping, he is frantically searching for decaffeinated iced tea and lemonade, and he found it. It was great. The other day, I found this meme. Pam and I had been texting, and I found this Bitmoji of me holding, the Bitmoji me, and I'm holding a glass of wine. And I think the caption was, sure, why not? Or something like that. And I sent it to her because it resonated so deeply with me that I had to share it. Because what I have learned, and this is so absolutely true for me, when I think of drinking in any capacity, if I say it out loud, it takes some of the power out of it. But if I say it out loud to another person, it takes most of the power out of it. Even though don't feel that I'm in danger of relapse, I don't feel like I'm in danger of drinking, I am terrified of what relapse would do to me. I'm not willing to give up what I've gained in sobriety. So I still say it out loud. And my husband will thank me sometimes when I say it. And it's not very often. But I always know how serious my wounding is, or how seriously I am in wounding in comparison to how often am I thinking about alcohol? Am I thinking about the escape? Am I thinking about the taste? Am I thinking about the ritual of pouring? That was a real ritual for me, that act of pouring. If that resonates with you, let me know in the comments. For those of you that are on YouTube, I know this is, you listen to this wherever you stream your podcast. So those of you that are listening through a streaming podcast, if that resonated with you, the ritual of pouring or any ritual around drinking, I urge you, go to the YouTube channel and comment on this and speak not your truth, but speak the truth about how enamored you are with that ritual, how attached you are to that ritual, whether it's something that was in the past if you're in recovery, or maybe you're still in your addiction. And maybe hearing this is going to ring a bell and you're going to go, oh shit, I want to know. Everyone deserves better. And I can guarantee you, life without alcohol is better, especially when you're doing the work to heal the wounding and to fill in those holes that we're trying to fill with the alcohol anyway. So I guess this really did turn into recovery talk. Yeah, it is important. And yeah, I guess with that, I am going to be done. I thank you for listening. Again, I would love to know your comments. You know, if you think this is a crock of shit, okay, you're entitled to that opinion. But if something resonated with you, please let me know. I would love to hear what resonated with you and why. You can reach out through the website at tcseverydayspsychics.com. On the website, you will find all of the practitioners, Pam, myself, Nana, Sarah, Trevor, our paranormal services. Everybody offers something different. Pam and I, while we both offer multidimensional energy healing, our healings and our healing style is different. And we both offer development programs, whether you're looking to develop your spirituality, you're looking to develop your psychic abilities, you want to become a multidimensional energy healer, or you want to work within the paranormal, which I will say you must go through all classes before any paranormal work. You have to be a multidimensional energy healing before you can be introduced to the paranormal in the way we work with it. And that is important to know up front. But if you are called to do that, yeah, the information's on the website and you can reach out and let us know. So thank you again. I hope this was thought-provoking and I hope it was understandable. I'll see y'all next time. Take care. Bye.